Absolutely. What happens when a man stops needing to be understood? Not because he has become cruel, not because he hates people, not because he has nothing to say. Absolutely. But because he has finally reached a point where someone else's opinion no longer determines how he feels about himself. That man becomes difficult to control. Praise does not easily seduce him. Criticism does not easily destroy him. Silence does not make him panic. Absolutely. Rejection does not automatically make him chase, and attention does not become a drug he needs every morning just to feel valuable. In a world where almost everything is designed to capture attention, this kind of person is unusual. Absolutely. Because most people can be influenced through what they fear losing. Approval.rtc, attention, belonging, recognition. But what happens when a person stops placing his emotional stability in the hands of other people? Something changes. He becomes quieter. Absolutely. More deliberate, less predictable. And strangely enough, that is often when people begin paying more attention to him. Here is the paradox. The less he tries to control how people perceive him, the more difficult he becomes to ignore. The less he explains himself. Absolutely. The more people wonder what he is thinking, the less he chases attention, the more noticeable his presence becomes. And the less he needs validation, the more freedom he possesses. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming internally anchored. Absolutely. And that distinction is everything. Modern society teaches people from an early age that acceptance is safety. Perform well and you receive praise. Behave correctly and you receive approval. Say the right things and you are accepted. Fit the expected image. Absolutely. And you belong. Eventually, without noticing it, a person can begin measuring himself through the reactions of everyone. Did they like what I said? Did they approve of my decision? Why did they stop replying? Why did their tone change? Absolutely. Why did they praise someone else? Why did they criticize me? Why did they stop paying attention? These questions may seem harmless, but repeated long enough, they create a dangerous habit. Your emotional center slowly moves outside yourself. Absolutely. Instead of deciding how you feel, you begin waiting for the environment to tell you. And once that happens, other people's behavior begins controlling your internal state. A compliment raises you. A criticism lowers you. A message excites you. Absolutely. Silence makes you anxious. Someone approaches, and suddenly you question yourself. The person may believe he is emotionally free, but he is actually responding to invisible strings. Absolutely. And the most powerful chains are often the ones you cannot see. This is where Ernst Jünger becomes interesting. Jünger wrote about the individual who refuses to be completely absorbed by the structure surrounding him. Absolutely. His idea of the forest rebel was not simply about running into the wilderness. It represented something deeper. A person can remain physically inside society while mentally refusing to surrender his inner independence to it. Absolutely. He can participate without becoming absorbed. He can listen without obeying every expectation. He can belong without losing himself. And that distinction is becoming increasingly rare. Because modern life does not always control people through direct force. Often, absolutely, it controls them through participation, through trends, through social expectations, through public opinion, through constant comparison, through the fear of becoming an outsider. And sometimes the strongest pressure is not, you must do this. It is, absolutely, everyone else is doing this. That sentence has shaped more lives than most people realize. People choose careers because everyone considers them respectable. They buy things because everyone else owns them. Absolutely. They speak in approved ways because disagreement creates discomfort. They display carefully constructed versions of themselves because being authentic can create uncertainty. And gradually, a person stops asking, what do I actually believe? And begins asking, absolutely. What will people think if I believe this? That is the moment independence begins to disappear, because now the audience is inside your head. You may be sitting alone, but psychologically, you are still performing. Absolutely. And this is one of the most important transformations in the journey toward inner freedom. You stop living as though someone is constantly watching. You realize that most people are far less focused on you than you imagined. Absolutely. Everyone is busy managing their own fears, ambitions, insecurities, and problems. The imaginary audience begins to disappear, and when it disappears, something extraordinary happens. You become more honest, not necessarily louder, not more rebellious. Absolutely. Simply more honest. You can say no without writing a 10-minute explanation. You can disagree without turning the disagreement into a war. You can walk away from situations that damage your peace without needing everyone to understand your decision. Absolutely. You can remain silent when silence is more appropriate than speech. And most importantly, you stop trying to force people to see you the way you want to be seen. This is where many people misunderstand emotional independence. They think it means not caring. Absolutely. It doesn't. A man can care deeply and still remain centered. He can love someone without becoming dependent on their attention. He can value friendship without begging to be included. He can respect criticism without allowing criticism to define him. Absolutely. He can experience rejection without interpreting it as proof that he has no value. That is not emotional emptiness. That is emotional ownership. The emotion belongs to you. Therefore, you decide what you do with it. You do not hand that responsibility to strangers. Absolutely. You do not give it to an audience, and you certainly do not surrender it to an algorithm. Think about how modern platforms work. They constantly measure reactions, likes, defamps, shares, followers, FOMPs. Absolutely. Every number appears to answer one question: how much attention are you receiving? And the human mind is highly sensitive to social feedback. So a person can slowly begin treating digital reactions as evidence of personal worth. A post performs well. Absolutely. And confidence rises. A post performs badly and doubt appears. Someone responds immediately and you feel important. Someone leaves you unread and suddenly your mind invents explanations. The problem is not technology itself. Absolutely. The problem is allowing external feedback to become the measurement system for your identity. Because once that happens, you become highly predictable, give you praise, and you move toward it. Aroma attention and you chase it. Threaten rejection. Absolutely. And you become compliant. This is how emotional conditioning works, and once you recognize the pattern, you can begin breaking it. Here is the first major test. Can you remain calm when you are misunderstood? Most people cannot. They immediately begin explaining. Absolutely. Then explaining the explanation, then defending their intentions, then trying to convince the other person that they are actually good, intelligent, loyal, or misunderstood. But sometimes people are simply going to misunderstand you. Absolutely. And no amount of explanation will change that. The moment you accept, you become lighter. You stop trying to manage every interpretation. You realize that other people's opinions belong to them. You are responsible for your actions. Absolutely. You are responsible for your intentions. You are responsible for your character. But you cannot control another person's interpretation of you. That is their territory. Leave it there. This is one reason silence can become so powerful. Silence is not always weakness. Absolutely. Sometimes silence means, I don't need to prove this. I don't need to win this conversation. I don't need you to agree with me. I understand what happened, and I don't need to create another performance around it. Absolutely. That kind of silence is different from passive aggression. It is not punishment. It is the emotion may exist, the disagreement may exist, the disappointment may exist. But the person does not immediately throw all of it into the environment. Absolutely. He processes before responding, and that creates something rare, a gap between stimulus and reaction. Someone says something provocative. He pauses, someone withdraws attention. He observes, someone criticizes him. Absolutely. He evaluates the criticism before accepting or rejecting it. Something goes wrong. He does not immediately announce his emotional state to everyone around him. That pause is where freedom lives, because between what happens and what you do about it, absolutely, there is a small space. Most people live as if that space does not exist. Something happens, they react. Something is said, they answer. Someone becomes distant, they chase. Someone insults them, they retaliate. Someone praises them, they become attached. Absolutely. But the internally stable person learns to occupy that space. He watches the impulse, and then he chooses. That single change can transform entire personality, because now you are no longer simply responding to the environment, you are interpreting it. Absolutely. And interpretation gives you distance, distance gives you judgment, judgment gives you choice. And choice creates freedom. But there is an even deeper transformation. Eventually, you stop needing every relationship to work. Absolutely. This does not mean you become careless with people. It means you understand that not every connection is meant to last. Some people will leave. Some friendships will change. Some relationships will end. Some people will never understand you. Absolutely. Some people will dislike you for reasons you cannot fix. And sometimes, despite your best intentions, you will be the wrong person for someone else. That is life. The emotionally dependent person experiences every ending as a verdict. Absolutely. The emotionally independent person experiences an ending as information. Something changed. Something no longer works. Something has reached its natural conclusion. Pain may still exist, but panic does not have to. That is a massive difference. Absolutely. You can miss someone without begging them to return. You can love someone without losing yourself. You can accept rejection without turning rejection into self-hatred. You can walk away without needing revenge. Absolutely. And you can move forward without pretending that the relationship meant nothing. This is emotional maturity, not the absence of emotion, the ability to carry emotion without allowing it to dictate every decision. Absolutely. And this is precisely where the modern idea of masculinity often becomes confused. Some people believe strength means becoming emotionally numb. It doesn't. Numbness is not strength. Avoidance is not strength. Pretending not to care is not strength. Absolutely. Real strength is being able to feel something intensely without becoming controlled by it. You can be hurt and still think clearly. You can be angry and still choose your behavior. You can be disappointed and still keep your dignity. Absolutely. You can be afraid and still move forward. That is strength, not the absence of emotion, the presence of self-command. And once a person develops that ability, other people begin noticing something different. He becomes harder to provoke, not impossible. Absolutely. Human beings still have emotions, but harder. There is less impulsive reaction, less emotional bargaining, less desperate explanation, less need to win every interaction. Absolutely. His presence becomes calmer because his internal is no longer constantly waiting for external confirmation. And here comes another paradox. When you stop trying to appear powerful, you often become more powerful. When you stop trying to look mysterious, absolutely, you may become more difficult to read. Stop demanding. You begin behaving in ways that naturally command it. When you stop chasing attention, your attention becomes more valuable because attention is a form of energy. Absolutely. Where you place it reveals what controls you. If every insult gets your attention, insults control you. If every compliment changes your mood, compliments control you. If every rejection consumes your thoughts, rejection controls you. Absolutely. If every notification interrupts your concentration, technology controls you. Freedom is not merely having unlimited choices. Freedom is deciding what deserves your attention. That is a much harder skill, and it requires discipline. Absolutely. The internally free person learns to ask, is this worth my reaction? That question alone can prevent enormous amounts of wasted energy. Someone disagrees with you. Is it worth arguing? Someone misunderstands you. Is another explanation necessary? Absolutely. Someone wants your attention. Do they deserve it? Someone provokes you. Will responding improve anything? Someone leaves. Is chasing them consistent with your dignity? These questions create a filter between the world and your nervous system. Without the filter, absolutely, everything enters. With the filter, you choose. And this is where Jünger's idea becomes especially relevant. The forest rebel is not necessarily the loudest person in the room. He does not need to announce his independence. Absolutely. He does not constantly tell people that he is different. He simply refuses to surrender his inner authority. He can live within a system without allowing the system to completely define him. He can use modern technology without becoming addicted to its approval. Absolutely. He can participate in society without making society his identity. He can hear the crowd without becoming the crowd. Not destruction, detachment from compulsory conformity. And this creates an uncomfortable question. Absolutely. How much of your personality actually belongs to you? How many of your opinions were chosen because you genuinely believe them? How many were inherited? How many desires are truly yours? How many are advertisements disguised as ambition? Absolutely. How much of your behavior is based on what you want? And how much is based on avoiding what others might think? These questions are difficult because they challenge the foundation of identity. But perhaps that is exactly why they are necessary. Absolutely. Because becoming independent does not begin by changing everyone around you. It begins by discovering where you are still dependent. Maybe you are dependent on praise, maybe on being needed, maybe on constant communication, maybe on being right. Absolutely. Maybe on being desired, maybe on appearing successful, maybe on never disappointing anyone. Whatever it is, identify it, because anything you desperately need can eventually be used to control you. That does not mean you should stop loving people. Absolutely. It means you should stop requiring them to constantly confirm your worth. There is a difference. Love says, I value you. Dependency says, I need you to validate me. Respect says, I appreciate your opinion. Submission says, my identity depends on your opinion. Absolutely. Connection says, I want you in my life. Attachment says, I cannot be okay without you. The distinction is subtle, but the consequences are enormous. The goal is not isolation. The goal is sovereignty. You can have friends. You can build relationships. Absolutely. You can work with others. You can participate in communities you can love deeply and still maintain an internal center that belongs only to you. That is the balance, because complete isolation is not freedom. It can simply be another form of avoidance. Absolutely. Real independence allows connection without dependence. It allows closeness without self-abandonment. It allows love without possession. It allows disagreement without hatred. It allows solitude without loneliness. And perhaps most importantly, absolutely, it allows you to remain yourself when the room chant, people applaud, when people criticize, when people stay, when people leave, when you succeed, when you fail. Your center remains. That is the real transformation, not becoming someone who never reacts. Absolutely. Becoming someone who chooses when to react, not becoming someone who never cares. Becoming someone who decides what deserves care, not becoming someone who rejects society. Becoming someone who can participate without being psychologically owned by it. Absolutely. And there is one final level. Eventually, you stop asking, how do I make people respect me, and start asking, am I living in a way that allows me to respect myself? That question changes the entire game because external respect is unstable. Absolutely. People change their opinions. Trends disappear, public approval is temporary, but self-respect is built privately. It comes from keeping promises to yourself, from knowing your limits, from accepting consequences. Absolutely. From telling the truth when lying would be easier, from walking away when staying would destroy your dignity, from admitting mistakes without collapsing into shame, from doing difficult things without needing applause. That is where internal authority comes from. Absolutely. Not from dominating others, from governing yourself. And perhaps that is the part modern society understands least. A person who governs himself is difficult to manipulate. He does not need constant instructions. He does not need constant approval. Absolutely. He does not need emotional chaos to feel alive. He can sit alone, think alone, work alone, make decisions alone, and then return to society by choice rather than desperation. That is a very different kind of person. Not empty, private, not disconnected, calm. Absolutely. Not weak. Independent, not hostile, and difficult to control. So if you ever find yourself becoming less interested in proving yourself, understand what may actually be happening. Perhaps you are not becoming colder. Perhaps you are becoming more secure. Absolutely. If criticism no longer destroys you, it may not mean you stopped caring. It may mean you learned to evaluate before reacting. If you can sit in silence without reaching for your phone, perhaps you are recovering something modern life constantly takes from you. Absolutely. Attention. If you can lose someone's approval without losing your identity, perhaps you have finally separated your worth from their opinion. And if you can walk away from something without needing everyone to understand why, absolutely. Perhaps you have discovered one of the rarest forms of freedom, the freedom to let reality exist without constantly trying to control its interpretation. Remember this, the easiest person to control is the person who can be controlled emotionally. Give him praise, absolutely. And he follows takeaway attention, and he chases threatened rejection, and he obeys concrete uncertainty, and he becomes desperate for answers. But when a person becomes internally grounded, these mechanisms begin losing their power. He still hears criticism, absolutely. He still experiences rejection. He still feels disappointment. He still wants connection. He still loves. He still hurts. But none of those things automatically command his behavior anymore. There is a difference between having emotions and being governed by them, absolutely. And that difference is where real independence begins. So perhaps the greatest rebellion in the modern world is not shouting louder than everyone else. It is becoming quiet enough to hear your own thoughts, not following every trend. Absolutely. Not responding to every provocation, not explaining every decision, not chasing every person who walks away, not measuring your worth through numbers on a screen, not allowing strangers to decide how you should feel about yourself. Absolutely. You do not need to disappear into a forest to become free. You need to discover the forest inside yourself, a private territory where your judgment still belongs to you, where your attention is yours, where your values are yours, where silence does not frighten you. Absolutely. Where rejection does not define you, where praise does not intoxicate you, and where your identity does not collapse simply because someone else changes their mind about you. That is the man society struggles to control, not because he is dangerous. Absolutely. But because he is no longer easily programmed by approval and fear. He does not need to fight the entire world. He simply refuses to surrender himself to it. And perhaps the most powerful thing you can do is not become louder, stronger, richer, or more impressive. Absolutely. Perhaps it is simply this. Become so internally stable that the world can change around you without constantly changing who you are. Because once you stop needing